And is there a definite question here before we give to groups? Okay, we'll take the few questions and then I want group activity as well. Okay, quick on the questions first this time and then group talk. Second. Is that one? Yes.
Yeah, I just want to, go back to the gender confusion. I know it's a big political issue right now, and I understand we're not supposed to judge the person, and eventually it's a choice. I've read a very good study on gender. It's from Singapore, Dr. John Tay, and he traced if gender confusion was based on genetics. And he did his research, very well documented research, and it has been proven that it's not genetics. There's nobody born gay. Now the question is, the world needs a father. We know that he said in his book, Born Gay, he said 98% of gender confusion can be traced to abusive fathers and fatherlessness. Now, knowing that, how do we now help a person who's gay without judging them, but how do we now help them to achieve the shalom, the total wholeness? So that is how do you now talk to them, how do you approach them, and how do you help them achieve that shalom?
It's really something that He's got such a sense of humor, I was supposed to start more permanently at Grace 8 early in the year, January, February, and things financially didn't work out. We were waiting for some land, and so I said to God, what must I do? I need to work a little bit, and I started to do some medical locums again, locum work. I had a 20-year medical practice that I left. Now I do locum work again, and so I got to this doctor in one of the towns close by, and she urgently needed help. And now I'm on this whole journey of trying to answer all these questions. And I see that she's a Christian lady, and the person that recommended me or told me about her said to me, "I just want to tell you that she's in a gay relationship." And I see on her Facebook and all that, she's definitely a Christian lady. And now it confronts me exactly that issue, and I'm going to now work with a doctor. That's that. And she phoned me the night before I started and said to me she just wants to ask me. She sees from my profile I'm on a mission time in my life and that I'm doing work for the Lord. Am I sure I want to come and work at a practice, or are we going to waste each other's time? And I said to her, no, we're not going to waste each other's time. Let me come and meet you, look you in the eyes, and work with you. And it's been a month now that we've worked together, and she's an amazing woman. She cares so much for her patients. She's got absolute heart that is just from the Lord. And yes, big abuse issues, it's there. I think the big thing is Jesus knew that the Samaritan women, had previous husbands. That's not what he asked her. He gave her water. He built the relationship. It was totally against her grain. Why would a man speak to her? Why would a Jew speak to a Samaritan? It's just not done. It is just not done. It's way worse than speaking to someone that's in a gay relationship or engaging with them or befriending them. But we want to point out the mistake. And he did that, and after all that, she asked, "Give me the living water. I want that water." And only when she asked, that's when he said, "Go call your husband." So he knew. He knew she wasn't married. He knew she had 5 or 6 others. And I think that's our challenge, is that we know the law. And we still, in our culture, in our brains, live by the law. And the new covenant is a covenant of love. You don't have to fulfill any law to be part of it. And we have to show someone in a gay relationship Jesus. Yes, there's hurt. We see the hurt in the children. We feel terrible for them. And we feel angry in a way that it happens. But I think, so God's really putting me in these situations. I I'm seeing so many more gay patients now, and I think, Lord, why are you bringing me all these patients, you know? And it's just to say, are you willing to build the relationship? I will work in their hearts. What you must understand, when you're just on the topic, and Frans can maybe say something about the chemical, they change chemically. They definitely change chemically because of chemicals that are different in their bodies over time. Not necessarily, you know, that they are born genetically different, but they change chemically. Like you would change and become depressed, your chemicals, your serotonin, those things change, but they change chemically that they would, the way they talk, the way they move, the way they act, the way they think is for a male more like a female. There's a definite chemical change. Frans, do you know if there's anything on that, on the chemical changes on that? So just before you answer, the specific person that I know well that came out of a relationship like that, it took 7 years for that person to feel that he was changed back to what he should be and feel like. 7 years. He's a doctor. That's someone else that I know.
Well, it's a brilliant question, and maybe I can just share some of just quickly, 3 thoughts. I thought it was cut and dried, in Genesis, a man shall leave his wife, cling to his wife, when they become one flesh. So you can pretty much put everything there. Family relationships, this is how it works, same flesh, no bestiality, no incest. It's very simple. And then you go to Acts 15, so it now applies to Covenant Church as well. Same principles, the blood, the same boundaries. This is what family relationship looks like. Revelation, Thyatira is judged for this sort of activity. So it's absolutely clear that is absolutely God's plan. And so one of the challenges I had was an individual who is genetically, and I shared this with someone earlier, who is genetically male, but because there's some script that's wrong, they're biologically expressed as female. And I've read Dr. Tay's book, and I've had dialogues about him about this, and I've asked the difficult questions, because genetically identical twins are not always gay. They are mostly, if one is, then the other's well. It's not always, and therefore you can't say it's always genetics. So there is an association. It's not a ruleless or an always situation. And so in this situation, you've got someone who is genetically male, who's manifested female. And now what do? Do you correct them to their genetics? Or do you accept them as their manifestation? And that's what challenged me. So downstream it becomes really, really, really sort of obvious, and you can't condone a certain level of behavior, etc., etc. But if you take it all the way back, there is a level of, Lord, I want to humble myself in this situation. And so if my heart has come across today, it's just, I have really been sort of beaten into submission. I like dogma. I like clear boundaries. It may not sound that way. My vagueness is the product of pruning.
Just one quick thing. I'm listening to a book at the moment. It's from Chris. He's also from Bethel Church, from the Spirit School, and he said specifically on this issue. He was sitting on a 5-hour flight. He was not in the same row as his wife. His wife had to sit in a different seat. And he was sitting by the window, and 2 men sat, next to him. And as before they took off, he spoke to the men in the middle seat and said, would you mind, my wife has an aisle seat, which is a bit more comfortable. Would you swap places with her so that she can come and sit next to me? And look, he's a teaching pastor in Reading. And the guy said, no, not at all. I'm not going to move. And a minute or 2 later, the guys were holding hands, and they were, sort of romantic in the flight and all that. And he obviously understood why the guy didn't want to move. And he thought, oh, I've got to sit in this seat now, for 5 hours. And these two sort of, it looks a little bit inappropriate. What am I going to do? And he was just in such rebellion, and he was just like, they're not good. And, you know, and God just left him for a few hours. And eventually, you know, he just said to him, and God just said to him, how long are you going to be angry about this now? You know, are you showing me to them? Who are you showing to them? And he offered them some pretzels, you know, to eat, and he started opening up a little bit. And he's very prophetic. He's got a very big prophetic gift. And he started engaging and having conversations. And he had a book about the church on his lap. And the one guy said, "Oh, Yanni, he's not so impressed by the church. It's dangerous." And the pastor said, "I also think they're dangerous, but they pay my salary." So, and he started, you know, just engaging 2-3 hours. And at the end, just before they landed, God gave him a prophetic word for the one guy. And he said to the guy, "Can I have a prophetic word for you. Can I share it with you?" And the person said, "Yes, please." And he said, "I see you standing on the beach, painting. And the view changed a little while later, and you were in a studio doing sculpturing. And God says, I don't know if he said Father or God, says that you have been gifted with this talent of being so artistic with painting and sculpturing, and he wants you to do it. He wants you to walk in that and not have doubts in it." And the other man completely freaked out and said, he just doesn't want to start sculpturing. That's his thing that he loves, and he's a painter, and the thing that he loves most is to paint the sea. You know, and so what I'm saying is that God gave him a vision, a prophetic word about him when he changed his heart. And I think that's the main thing, is we have to change our hearts. God will do whatever he wants with them when the time is right. But it's really where we come from. Do we live Jesus for whoever? Do we live Jesus for them because he accepted them?
Good. Great. And you know our policy, we don't have many policies, but the world needs a father. I allow this talk, and I actually asked him to share that one example. I allow this talk because we are here in an in-house discussion. But when you get requests, when you do training, we defer. Remember? You go and talk to your pastor, you go and talk to others. We don't deal with the issue of gay or lesbian or whatever, because it's become a political issue, and whatever we say may be read in a way that we don't want people to read it, so we defer. So on official platform, no engagement of that, please. God gave me very few instructions on this one. One was a name, the other one was you never engage officially in that from the platform. That's it. Okay, is that okay? All
yes.
Understood? Okay.
Sorry, Kasi, I've got
I hear a voice.
Yes, hi.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Hi, I'm Nondando Mkengele from South Africa, East London. I have a question, and I think it's just building on what you had said earlier in terms of the men not standing up for the rights, advocating for the good treatment of women. And I think that's a big cry. I know even with my husband, it's his big cry. Why can't men unite and stand against, and speak on behalf of women? And for a long time, it was bothering me, thinking that are men not capable of doing this? Are men, is it just that they don't care or they don't see what's happening? But until recently, when I'm sure some of you would know, there was a movie here in South Africa which has just recently come out, which is saying Inqeba the Wound. And I saw men uniting in big numbers to make sure that that movie is not screened, particularly in the Eastern Cape, because the movie was exposing the very culture of men going to the mountain and what happens there. And men were protecting their culture to say that this cannot be seen by the general public because this is a secret of ours, it's what we do. And I saw men in numbers there, whether in Eastern Cape or Cape Town, coming together, making sure that the movie is not screened. And they successfully did so. The movie was actually taken off. It was not screened when it was supposed to come out. And then I thought, wow, so men can actually unite against a cause and make sure that it doesn't happen. Why are they not doing it when it comes to women and children and such things that are causing so much injustice? I mean, we also see men all the time in South Africa, in a country which has got so much industrial action. If there's a COSA too much, you see it's men that are marching for the rights of men in the workplace. So they are able to gather themselves together for other causes. But why is it that they cannot gather to stand for, for a good cause, for women to be treated better and children? So I guess my question is then, whether from a psychological point of view, is there really a reason that is holding men back to stand up and unite against such things, or what could be the issue that they cannot do this? Is it issue of that they've got their own wounds, maybe they don't want to confront, or what could be happening? And also just to ask, maybe in other countries, is it better? Are they able to mobilize men to stand together, to advocate for the good treatment of women and children? Thanks. That's my...
You know what? What I just hear in my mind, if we go to Genesis, not even Adam stood up for Eve, because God gave him the instruction about the fruit, not Eve. And he asked him what happened. He knew Eve did it, but he asked him. And if Adam said, I should have been there, it would have been a very different story, I think. And he said, it's not me. And then he asked Eve. So I think it's part of the fall of man. It's part of the fall of man, and that's why Jesus came to restore it. It will be restored eventually when we return to Eden, the way we should. And it's not an excuse that men should not stand up. But if there's no fear of the Lord, if there's no reverence for God, to know that this woman that I'm married to is his daughter. And one day he's going to ask me, what did you do with my daughter? Did you wash her with the word? Are you representing her back to me the way you should? And the men should have that. They should know that they will be accountable. I say to many times in therapy or in medical practice, if females come to me and they're so angry at their husbands for whatever, doing all the horrible things, I said to them, I think the most important thing you can do is pray for them, because they will be held 100% responsible for what they did. And I don't think men have a fear of the Lord. It's part of the fall. It's Adam fell first, and all the men are like dominoes after him.
Yeah. I think we come back to the word again that we had very early. Anhedonia. Remember that word? I didn't know this word at all. Anhedonia. It's an insensitivity. It's not an apathy. Yeah. It's a lack of something in your conscience. It's a spiritual issue that you don't sense what God is sensing. And please, guys, yesterday when God visited us concerning Sri Lanka, please, I beg you, concerning your own nation and concerning your own neighborhood, concerning your own church and country and so on, please beg and plead God, I need to spend more time with you, that I can hear and feel what hurts your heart. I often am shocked that I come into a nation and people are just blind as South Africa, as white South Africans were in the apartheid years when they did not see. You understand? And other people had to come and tell us what we could not see. We just could not see it. So that anhedonia, if there is one thing that a spiritual leader needs, he needs to sense and move with God and God, the Spirit of God, and sense what is on God's heart. Cry with God, love with God, move with God, dance with God. And if you lost that, please beg God to give it back to you. Because when David says, do not take your spirit away from me. This is my prayer. The last 2 years I'm praying, I'm not praying, Lord, I want to stay a Christian until I die. This is not what I'm praying. I'm praying, I don't want to lose that sensitivity that when your spirit moves, that I move. because that is what Moses had. You understand? And sorry guys, but we've lost that.
Yeah.
We've lost that, and we've got to regain that. And then we will move with God on this. Is that okay? Okay, we've got, yes, Fiona? Let me just check. Woo. Okay, 2. Only 2? Is that okay? Is there another one? 3. 2 ladies, 1 man, 2 men. How short can you be? Quick, because we need to be in groups as well. Right.
I want to respond to the women.
To the women, are you going to another
Are you
thing?
going to respond to the women?
If not to the women, give to her.
Okay.
Don't worry, I'll give it to you. I'll give
Okay.
it to you before we go and eat. Don't worry.
Listen,
See, she's coming here, and the first word is listen. Got it.
I want to talk to you a minute. I love you. This room is full of heroes. But you may go back a little bit tomorrow and think about women and the world needs a father. Now, I want to just say to you men, you have to learn how a woman ticks. I will never forgive you.
Wow, now that's it. But don't worry, we'll listen.
I take that away.
We listen to the end.
I will be disappointed in you if you ever say again, women, I don't know how they work. I don't know how they function. You know, I have heard men in a bar talking about their women and saying, we just don't know. Women are different species. How are we ever going to know about them? It's going to take us years to learn about them, right?
I have said it many times, so I have to...
You said it to me, actually, on a Skype call. You said, oh, it's going to take a long time.
Because I grew up with 4 sisters.
What I'm saying is this. We do not understand one another.
Yeah.
For too long as women, we have gathered together and made an agreement that you are something from Mars, right? We are from Venus, you are from Mars. We have made an agreement, but we have also made an agreement because we haven't been understood. You see, we know you are the first of the, we know you are the servant leader. But because we have not maybe felt secure under your leadership, we have made an agreement to talk about you in some derogatory ways. And we have filled all the gaps. All the gaps. You walk out, we look after the children, we look after the house, we go out to work, we do all that. We have compensated, right? And so we have made an agreement, often as women, that, you know what, that you've got a deficit. I'm sorry about that, but that's true. So what do? We manipulate you. That's our survival mechanism. It's dreadful, but we do it, right? Now let's look at it from the other side. You have made an agreement, you don't understand us. And you have a need for respect, which is different from the way that women look at respect. You have to get out of your head churchy stuff now. I'm talking about the whole population of people on this planet. I can tell you that women don't look at respect as you look at respect, right? I'm going on a logical route here.
You have to do it quick.
Okay, so we have a mindset where everything is mixed up together. And if we have problems and issues, we lose our peace. And we have to confront the issue, okay? Because otherwise I can't get my peace back. That's how I'm made. If I have a worry about my children or something like that, when you come home from work, I really don't want to give you time. I'm talking about the general population here, right? I don't want to give you time. I want to confront you with the issue that's taking away my peace. But to you, my confrontation looks like disrespect. So you either push me away, back off, or give me an answer, but you take your disrespect with you, right? We operate differently. I am only learning at 65 how many 100,000 mistakes I've made in the respect area with men. Love and Respect is a book that we all need to read, right? Okay. So take it a step further. We as women have been put down in the world for a very long time, and in most of our cultures, women are still not being given a voice. And I have to tell you, in many of our churches, women are not being given a voice. And I will speak for Asia. We have a pyramidal, patriarchal society. So when we start getting a little bit of freedom, we burst, which is what I did with Cassie yesterday.
And doing now.
Sorry. We burst out, you take, and we confront, and you take that as disrespect, right? So what's happening in my society is that women are being given affirmative action in jobs. So now some companies will say we're only going to employ women, and the men are bursting out. Actually, I don't know if affirmative action is the best way to go, but men are bursting out. This isn't fair, but they're not realizing that we are coming from hundreds of years of not fair. And we are actually bursting out, and then they're taking it as not fair, it's disrespectful, it's disrespectful, it's disrespectful. As a prophetic woman, I have made all the mistakes, but I know sometimes that I've had a prophetic word and the pastor will not receive it because of my attitude. And I'm only realizing that in the last couple of years about my attitude. But I have had so many frustrations. All right,
Okay.
Look at it this way.
Yeah. Last few sentences.
Okay. We have got a United Nations movement called He for She that's going all around the world, and it's asking men in business to help women rise up and to have a voice at all levels. I think we need to understand one another. I think the world needs a father is in a unique place to teach men about women and women about men, because without that we're going to pick up all the wrong signals, and you're going to call us shrill, you're going to be offended by us, you're going to feel disrespected by us, when actually what we are doing is bursting out because we've got a tiny bit of freedom and we want to use it.
Okay. Thanks. No, that's yours. You got the message. We got to understand women. Let me just do a prayer. Shall I do a prayer? Father God, we want to commit our lives to you in this way. If there is anyone here in this space that has not committed his life to understand his wife, to get to understand her, to understand how she functions, to love her in a way that he would listen, sense, feel, hear from you while you're speaking about them, hear their value, understand it, embrace it. Then I pray that you will give this to whoever needs this right now. Guide us as a movement to understand what we should do related to an understanding of the other gender, and help us to do this in this most humble spirit of Jesus Christ. But give us better understanding, Lord. And Lord, and when we joke a little bit about different species and not understanding and so on, Lord, see our hearts. And if there is anything in our heart that separates us from anyone else while making this joking remark, I pray that you will reveal it to us, but that you will give it in us a deep, deep desire to understand the other generation, starting with our wives, because we can't speak unless we do that. Starting with our wives, and then also go beyond. But lead us in this. We need your guidance. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Riet, and I'll give the ladies, and then you have this final say.
This will be very quick. I just have a question, and maybe Dr. Mendes can also comment on this. Oftentimes, I have parents that bring their children to me saying that they are very naughty, anger issues, learning problems, things like that. The specific one I'm talking about is a girl of 13 years old, and her father had a sex change. So he's a woman now. And he said to her that from now on she must call him mommy and mother. And now the mother wants me to fix the girl. And I sent the girl to a children's psychiatrist, and that woman said that the thing that she must do now is cut out her father out of her life. So what I want to know is, what do you think about it? What can I answer in the church? What can I say about this issue?
I did not invite you to answer difficult questions like this.
No.
Okay? I did not.
You know, the only word I hear is Jesus. And, you know, you cannot heal such hurt and such confusion in a child with any counseling from the world. We just don't have an answer for that. You know, and I think if we can bring Jesus' love and his message in his reconciliation into her heart, so no cutting off of anyone, no hating of anyone, the covenant that he brought is a one of love. That's the only thing. If she can understand love, doesn't matter how confusing it is, the Holy Spirit will guide her and will help her. But we cannot make sense of that and say this is the right advice, because there is no human right advice for this.
I think that is, yeah. As vague as it is, there's no other answer, I think, to... you want to say anything about that? She's asked you if you want to comment on that, Lalit?
Okay.
If there's a father figure who can stand in the gap so that she can call someone father, daddy, yeah, that's, as he said, that's only Christ can heal such terrible devastation. But if there's a father figure, can I get on to what I wanted to ask? Yeah. This, you know, the son who becomes a father is a very broken person. His father hasn't supported him. So his mother has supported him. So he marries looking for a mother. And he thinks this lady figure will give him comfort, will give him respect that his father didn't give. And she marries looking for a father that her father didn't give. And even in church marriage counseling, this is so inadequately settled. You set up two people expecting from each other what they can't give. So if you go on at a man saying, give me or stand up for me, when he can hardly stand up for himself, it's a thing that will not work. But he has to. But it has to be a long process. In marriage, they have to heal each other. And we live in a fallen world. And the same problem comes, this son becomes a father in politics, in profession, in church. But he is still a son, craving for identity, belonging, worth and significance. He tries to get it through performance. And then he's suffering from absent fatherness and he pretends to be a father. He abuses his family, his wife, his church members, his professional juniors. And if such a figure gets into politics, because politics has the biggest field of influence, he ruins everything. So we have to heal this person. It goes to another level. We are sons of a nation. And the nation father needs repatriation. Sri Lanka as a nation needs reparenting. South Africa as a nation needs reparenting. And we sons who have been abused by the father has to adopt the father. So Malachi 4:6, sovereignly and by God thing, fathers have to turn their heart to children. But the second line is equally sovereign. Children have to adopt their fathers and get this right. If not, we perish together, but we want to live together.
Right. Good. That speaks so well into the insecurities that we've always talked about. Okay, Donald, you've got the last question before I'm going to divide you still in groups just for a last closing decision making. Yeah.
Ok. Ma question est un peu...
En français, oui?
Oui, théologique.
Oh, oui. I'll stop you if I can't. No, well, you can.
Ok. Donc, d'habitude, on pense qu'il faut juste demander pardon pour être libéré, pour être guéri. Et quand je vous entends et tout ce que nous avons appris jusqu'ici, on voit que le pardon est un processus. Ou alors la guérison, pas le pardon, mais la guérison, oui, est un processus. Et quand je regarde l'histoire de Joseph dans la Bible, il a vécu dans un foyer polygamique et tout ne marchait pas bien. Et aussi, tout s'est passé de manière à ce que ses frères le vendent. Il a passé presque 20 ans dans une situation d'esclave où il était vraiment malade à l'intérieur. Mais quand il voit ses frères, le choc apparaît, mais il va pardonner ses frères. Mais comment on peut voir le processus de la guérison de Joseph dans cette histoire? Parce que souvent, quand on parle de ça, on parle juste du pardon. Mais comment on peut comprendre le processus de la guérison? Parce que certains pensent que, on enseigne souvent l'histoire du pardon de Joseph et on s'arrête là, mais sans voir le processus.
For Joseph to forgive them and to have healing.
Yes.
Yeah. I think Joseph is a type of...
Just summarize the question.
Yeah, to summarize the question, you are saying the processes that Joseph had as a slave and what his brothers did to him, that he could actually forgive them with everything that was done to him in church. And I think God really raised Joseph up as a type of Jesus. Because that verse that he says, what God meant for evil. What you meant for evil. Pardon, Michel. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. And I think the time, he had lots of time to think. He was in the jail for long, building his character. And he had character building over many, many years for him to be able to forgive. I think his decision for forgiveness was long before the day that they came there. So the healing process is a long process. But I think God raised Joseph up to show us the forgiveness of Jesus and the reconciliation that he can do. And that's why Joseph did it. So, yeah, the healing, does it answer the question? Not. Ask in English if there's something that I missed. You can speak English now.
It's okay.
No, I just want to know if there's something that I missed in the French. Maybe I misinterpreted something.
Non, en fait, c'était ça.
Did I answer the question? Oui.
Oui, je crois que ça peut aller.
Okay.
Merci.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, lunchtime before we run.
You can speak to me. Après ça.
Okay. Is there a serious question? Okay, last question. Can I have it short? Mike? Where is the other mic?
Thank you very much for explaining us everything briefly with stories. I've got a short story which please bear with me, I will tell very briefly. I go to a place to pray. There is a boy whose mother brings to the church, and she's going to another church, but she was not able to correct the boy. He's very mischievous, naughty, stealing every day. When he goes to school, he steals things and brings. Even when he travels in the bus, if somebody gives the bag, he opens the zip and takes whatever is inside. He's very mischievous, and he hits his sister and brother. mother is unable to send anywhere. So she came and told me every bad thing about him, 100% bad things about him. I did not know what to do. But I learned about the father wounds and the affirmation, and they do not appreciate. And I was forced to find some positive and good things in him. And I told his mother he can be corrected because he likes to listen, first one. And the other one, he is present in the church. That's important. Some children, they do not come. He comes. So I was forced to find two things. Then I spoke to him quite a while, and he understood what went wrong. The next day I came to church and asked him, did you steal? He said, yes. What? 100 rupees and CDs. The next day he came to church. I asked, did you steal? Yes. And he said, some erasers and pencils and books. The third day I asked, he said, yes. Then I have a group in the church to pray for this boy. And I prayed for him continuously 3 weeks. And the next week he came to my church. Then I called him forward and I said, no, you are going to be a pastor. You are going to be a youth leader. God is going to use you in a mighty way. And I encouraged him. And the next day I told him, God will really change you because you're speaking the truth. Although you steal, you speak the truth. Then the next day he said he did not steal anything. I was all right, and I asked his mother if it was true. Mother said, yes, he's improving, he's getting better. Now, I want to ask you a question. Now, how can I advise these parents to stand at the gate, to be gatekeepers? The second question is this. How can these parents guide them, and what must have gone wrong? I can't ask the boy if your father is stealing or if your grandfather is stealing. It's a bad question. How can I help these parents? Because I can't stand for them always. The parents should stand, and they should be the gatekeepers. Thank you.
Let me rephrase the question. As the question,
I think
what advice do we give the parents?
Yeah. The question is, what advice do you give the parents? That's the question.
Yes. So that it's sustainable, because he's not always there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we all have that. Are their parents Christians? Okay. I think it's how old is the boy?
Yes.
13. Okay, that's really important, because now he's accountable. You know, he's at the accountable age. So I would say that the person that needs to stand in the gap, firstly, the father needs to be an example. It's really important. He needs to be there, and he needs to hold him accountable. Because accountability comes in when you're 13. You know, he's not a boy anymore. So the practical guides, you know, is to understand that the father needs to be the one that keeps him accountable. It switches roles from what the mother can do, and he does things to be acceptable to the mother when he's less than 13. And as soon as he's 13 and above, then the role models of the men. We spoke about, Dr. Mendes said, does the girl have other father role models or men role models? I think it's very important in a boy like that to try and create men role models and older people around him that can help guide him, and not only his own parents. You know, even in like my son, you know, it was very important for me. God just told me from the beginning, he takes tennis lessons. Who does he have his lesson with? Is it a man that will teach him about life as well, and not just about tennis? If it's not, change the coach. Then performance is not important if he's going to win the match. But if he's got a godly man that teaches him how to play tennis, he will learn about life. And I think that's the thing, is for a little girl like that she said about is you have to pray for God to put people around them to make decisions. You know, when I read Ruth the other day, the decision that Boaz had to make to marry Ruth, he wasn't first in line to make the decision, so he had to make an important decision. He went to the gates where the gatekeepers were and the elders were, and he got the other person that was supposed to be first in line to marry Ruth, and he got 10 men, older men, to listen to their discussion. 10 men to make the decision. And the one said, I'll take the property. And he said, no, but remember, if you take the property, you've got to take the women as well. And he said, no, then I can't do that. And I think that's the big thing there is don't leave the parents on their own. Pray for other men to be around him. Where he's at school, where he's in. So there needs to be more that helps. A community raises a child. A village raises a child, not just a parent. So if we can, you know, even there, just where there's a person that has music, whatever they have to have people around them more than just their parents to support.
Right, now this is a brilliant answer because it takes us right back into our training. Table of support. He needs a full table of support.
Yeah.
He needs a rite of passage at 13.
Yeah.
And he needs a very definite relationship with his dad, you know, that is not, because we say he's a teenager, so dad step back, help them to function. Table of support must kick in 100%. You got it? You know the language that I'm talking now. Okay, finish with questions. Let's just, no. Yeah, I can say thank you now. And then I'll give them the question. Schalk, thank you so much.
Okay.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I hope that he was just a cherry on top, that what a nice family of God we have from the different specialists. Can you imagine what I dream about? I dream that I have all these guys that came to speak this week, and I have them for a day or 2 or 3 at some good place where we can think together and see how we enrich together, so that we can have that cross-pollination between them also to enrich further what we are doing. So that's what I'm dreaming. I'm just saying this, Schalk. You talk to Jesus and you ask Jesus what he says to you. Okay. And but thank you so much that you are here, and thank you just for who you are. Praise God for that. Fantastic.